Hi guys, this is Mason, and so the first thing that I want to do with my two documents. So my first document that I have here is a Word doc, and then the second document I have here is a Google Doc, which I'll get to a little bit later. And I just want to state a caveat before we really get started. I do not use PowerPoint. Our school's iPads really don't like PowerPoint for our students, and so I make it more accessible for my students in particular to put my slides in Google, so that way students are able to interact with and actually see it and not have those Microsoft glitches that they would have on their iPads, because it's very hard for them to interact with the iPad app on their individual iPads and also to get that working. Plus, my students also really like using Google Slides more, so that way they can interact with, make it more fun, and also using different designs. So here is the Word doc that I usually give to students when we're on our lovely energy unit. And this is kind of like our lab pre-project activity that students interact with. And I'm sorry that it just went nighttime. So now it is very dark in this document. So I really apologize for that. However, it is a white document. It just, my screen went to dark mode. So I really do apologize for that. So the first thing that you interact with here is our lovely headings. So if we look at our document, we have headings. So the urban island heat effect is what students are going to be interacting with. So essentially in science, what we do is we do a phenomena-based learning, which essentially allows students to interact with science in a wonder around the world that we have today. So I'm having my students interact with heat and what specific heat and heat capacity are with using New York City and the island heat effect. So to begin this off, we have that heading. We also have our lovely heading in this lovely chart here. We have a hypothesis heading. And then on the next page, we have part 2 reasoning, directions, model A, so on and so forth for this document. If we keep going in this document, we do realize and see that no heading is used more than once. So it says, please make sure that you are only using one heading once per page, and that means including heading 1, 2, and 3, and do not skip heading levels. So headings are all on the same level, whether it be in a chart or on the same playing field. Secondly, we have images. So obviously there are some images within this lovely graphic organizer that students are going to be completing. So in this image, I do not have an alt text, and majority of the images in here, I do not have alternative text, because students are going to be basically interacting with. So if we take a look here, it says hypothesis. In the diagram below, show where heat may be transferred, use arrows as movement of energy, consider where energy may be absorbed or released, and where energy may sink or be stored. So I do not want students to just look at this gorgeous picture here and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm interacting with this picture and I'm looking at a city. No, I want them to interact with the picture by showing me in this picture where energy is being stored. I feel like adding an alternative text would really inhibit their learning. And as we scroll down, like students are going to be interacting with the FET. This picture is to show them what the FET looks like. I could put an alternative text being like, you should see this picture to demonstrate what the FET looks like, especially with the blocks and etc. They are essentially there for students to interact with as they are completing this activity. The next thing that the web accessibility tells us to look at is lists. So all of my lists within this document are in numbered or bullet pointed format. So as my students are interacting with this part 2 reasoning format, they're essentially working through this list and working along down it as a step-by-step process. And if they get to like a number 8, for example, if they have additional steps for that part, and when they're interacting with like a brick and iron and drawing something, there is an additional steps either between A through whatever letter to let them know, hey, let's pause on this step for a little bit so that we are interacting with something and answering some questions. The links. Now, our link that I have in this lovely document is a hyperlink. So the hyperlink allows you to not just have this full-fledged, really ugly looking like link where students have to enter in all those characters. It essentially like does have the link there. So when they click on it, it does pull up that lovely website for them, so that the way they are interacting with that. I'm sorry. So there's that. And then as we are working through math and science, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit because it tells you not to use the equations that are in Word. However, I will admit I do use them. I'm a little confused on why it's saying not to use them. I will be really honest. I will try to strive away, and probably it's because that if we use them, there's not really any descriptors of what each of these things mean. So I could probably use a picture or make myself a picture and insert it into the Word document to outline, okay, what's Q, what's M, what's C. But as you can see, even if I put this equation in, I literally outlined it below to allow the students to know, hey, this is what we are using when we are talking about this equation here. The next part in the accessibility that we need to look at this Word doc is tables. So for this table that I have here, it says that we need to be able to read it from top to bottom and from left to right. So we have substances, specific heat, okay. Brick, iron, yes. So this table works, and majority of the tables that are in this document work. So block 1, yep, there we go. Swimming pool, wading pool, yep, it works from top to bottom. And it also tells us that we need to make sure that we have headers. Now this table does not have a header because it's with a lovely question, so I'm having students interact with that. This table up here does have headers, and then if we keep going here, this table does not have a header because it's more of a model that students are interacting with. Not saying that that's great. I should probably put a header, and this should be the header, like model A, complete this model, and it should be from top to bottom. So I probably, next time I make this document and look at this document, I should probably allow that to be like, hey, this is the table for model A. Now color, it is, right now it's a black document with white text, but originally it is a white document with black text, so students are interacting with that. Now, the reason I selected this document in particular is because Rice states that we need to make sure that students are interacting and engaging through virtual means in science, whether it be through virtual means or through a document camera type setting. So if I were to actually teach this lesson online, I have a PhET, and Rice even cites PhET in her lovely text and states that PhET's a great way for students to visualize and understand what students are learning, so that way they are engaging and learning. In addition to that, Rice also states that we need to make sure that it's our learning more accessibility, learning more things and being highly accessible to what they are learning through graphic organizers and filling out those blanks. So I give my students graphic organizers. I usually don't have them keep a notebook around unless it's just for like do nows or practice activities. I usually hand them a graphic organizer to complete and input missing variables, so that way they are interacting with those. Rice says it's a great way for students to follow along and gather information. I do believe it's not just for students that have those needs, but I feel like it would be also beneficial for students who are at home and learning, and to fill in those blanks, so that way students are engaging and learning and following along with you as you are working through those aspects. Now, as we transition gears into our PowerPoint, as I stated before, that I use Google Slides. So for Google Slides, it's very, very different. And I usually start my lessons off in a very unique, same way. I love having a routine in my classroom. It allows students to really know, okay, when they come to class, this is what I need, this is what I need to know, and this is how it's going to do. So I run my class the same way every single time. So when the students walk into my classroom, this is the first slide they see. They know the date, they know what they need to have on their desk, and they should know also what their homework assignment is for that evening. In addition to that, the next slide is the objective or learning target for the day, and then also their do now, what they need to complete for their do now. And then so on and so forth, the lesson, and then the ticket out the door. Here's the thing about Google Slides. It does not allow you to have an outlined view. It only allows you to see the slides on the side, which is accessible, and even allows you, it states that when you are editing your slides, that you need to make sure that you have this slide layout out, so that way when you're editing, you can see all the slides there as you are working through. However, it does not have an outline. If I were to show like the PowerPoint outline, there would be some key aspects missing, because some of the slides literally just have a chart on them, and the chart really won't be showing that much, and also some of them also only have a picture on them, so it really wouldn't be beneficial as an outline. That is something to probably work on as students are seeing and possibly using the outline for this, but usually when students interact with Google Slides, they're interacting with this slide bar during my class. Now, the reading order for the slides, it works down, and there's also a lot of charts on the table, so it reads down from the top to the bottom, and as you click down, it goes from that to this, to the chart, to this picture, and then to the video that's inserted. So the reading order can be fixed. I mean, like some slides has the reading order completely different. It's like from left to right, so students know what to interact with. This slide also changes it, so it does read down, but the picture's now over here. So possibly changing that so that this formatting is completely the same. So the picture would be on this side and the words would be on that side. So that way it's very cohesive and all together all at once. Again, with lovely pictures that we're talking about with accessibility. So for this picture, I should probably put an alternative text so that way students are able to know that, hey, this is evaporation, this is boiling. So when something's evaporating, there's different molecules involved and it's only the surface. And for actual boiling, it's the whole liquid. And same thing for this, like students don't know when they look at this document, and I probably will fix this as well, that S, L, and G stand for solid, liquid, and gas. So having that, making sure that's very important when students are looking at images. Lists. I usually do put bullet points and numbers on lists, but if it focuses mainly on like the main thing that I'm having students get across, so like kinetic molecular theory, which was what this lesson was about, I usually don't have a bullet point and students are interacting with just the definition itself to make a very stern point that, hey, this is important, make sure you're paying attention, this is highly great. And as we're talking about colors of stuff, I usually have different colors of text when students have to write things down, whether it be blue or red. So just to make sure like, hey, this is what you probably need to write down. And students know usually by my format, like, hey, you already completed this, but blue means this is what I would have put into these boxes. Hey, we didn't complete this. This is what you need to put down. So my students usually very much so get into the routine of what the colors mean as when they come to class, to let them know, hey, this is something that you've done before. This is just the answer to it. Or, hey, we haven't done this before. Make sure you're paying attention. Another thing that I do uniquely to my class is I don't have a bullet point list when students are entering discussion modes. So this would be a discussion slide, and usually I put it almost like a sticky note type format so students can say, hey, we're pausing for a second from notes and actually discussing. And I contrast that on a different color so students know, hey, that's when we are interacting with things as well. For this demonstration as well, I want to go down a little bit and talk about the lab activity that would go along with this activity, but it's further along the line. Because Rice states that we need to have virtual demonstrations. So this would be a virtual activity that students would interact with. Again, I show a picture of the graphic organizer as well, and what we're beginning to do in class today with different colored sticky notes, so that way they know what they're interacting with in different charts and pictures. If this was a virtual setting, I would obviously have a document camera set up so that students know what they're interacting with today and how they are going to interact with that. Because allowing students to have visuals and making sure that they are allowed to learn, whether it be through text, audio, and video, is highly, highly important, even if it is just a Google slide or even if it is just a Google document. My accessibility could be better. I completely 100% stand for that. And I'm hoping that what I've learned through this module allows me to be more accessible and allow students to gather their information from the lesson if we do like a hybrid type model for my students. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.